He was just a trembling boy in the front row, clutching a crumpled sign that said, "Please don't forget me." The crowd laughed softly until Elvis noticed him. What happened next stopped the entire arena cold, and the words Elvis spoke that night still echo through thousands of hearts decades later. June 19th, 1977, Market Square Arena, Indianapolis. It was supposed to be just another stop on Elvis Presley's summer tour, but that night the air felt heavy, almost electric. The stage lights bled gold across 20,000 faces, and the floor trembled under the roar of the crowd. Behind the curtain, Elvis adjusted his white jumpsuit. He touched the lucky turquoise ring that once belonged to his mother. For a moment he closed his eyes. The band waited for his nod. When he finally stepped out, the sound was deafening. Cheers, screams, the sound of love colliding with history. He began with C.C. Ryder. The brass section exploded. The crowd swayed like one living creature. Yet even in that sea of light, one face near the front burned through the blur. A small boy, maybe 10, holding a cardboard sign against his chest. The sign read in shaky letters, "Please don't forget me." At first, Elvis didn't react. He turned away, joking with the guitarist, keeping the rhythm alive. But something in that sign kept pulling his eyes back. During "Love Me Tender," the boy's lip quivered. He wasn't smiling like the others. He was crying. Quietly, desperately, as if the song itself was breaking him. For the first time that night, Elvis missed a line. The band looked up, confused. The king of rock and roll had gone still. He motioned for the sound to drop. The stadium fell into a strange silence. No music, just breathing, echo, and the tiny sobs of a child. Every camera pointed toward the front row. Elvis crouched near the edge of the stage, eyes locked on the boy. "Hey, little man," he said softly, his voice trembling through the mic. "What's your name?" The boy didn't answer, just held up the sign again. "Please don't forget me." A chill swept the room. Thousands watched, holding their breath. Who was this boy? And why did those 5 words shake Elvis more than any song ever could? The arena stayed frozen. You could hear the low hum of the amps and someone whispering a prayer in the back row. Elvis leaned closer, his jewel-covered cape brushing the stage floor. Security started to move, but Elvis waved them off. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Let him be." The crowd's noise melted into complete silence. The boy looked no older than 10, wearing a small denim jacket with patches of stars stitched by hand. His cheeks were red, eyes glassy under the glow. A woman beside him, his mother, held his shoulder. She looked tired, proud, and terrified all at once. Elvis crouched lower, voice shaking. "Son, what's your name?" The boy finally spoke, barely audible through the mic hiss. "My name's Jamie. My daddy used to sing your songs before he went away." The arena gasped softly. The band members froze. Elvis's face fell. "Before he went away?" he repeated gently. The boy nodded. "He was a soldier, sir. He didn't come home." His mother's tears glimmered under the spotlights. Elvis blinked hard, the memory of his own mother flashing through his mind. For a second, he wasn't a performer. He was just a man looking at pain he understood too well. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a scarf, the white one he always wore before the encore. Slowly, he handed it down to the boy. Jamie took it with trembling hands, pressing it to his heart. "Your daddy's proud of you, son," Elvis whispered. "You never forget that." The microphone caught every syllable. The arena felt smaller now, like a church, like time itself had paused to listen. And then Elvis did something no one expected. He turned to the band and nodded. The opening chords of "My Way" filled the hall, but this time he didn't sing to the audience. He sang to that one boy. Each word carried a weight. "Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention." The camera operators later said they couldn't see through their viewfinders because of the tears. When the song ended, Elvis looked back at Jamie. "You remember something for me, okay?" he said, barely holding back emotion. The boy nodded. "What's that?" Elvis asked softly. Jamie's voice cracked. "I won't forget you either. The audience erupted, not in cheers, but in sobs and silence. No one could have predicted that moment would soon become one of Elvis's final concerts. And for that little boy, it was a promise that would outlive the man himself. But what did Elvis do next? Something that would turn this quiet promise into legend. The crowd was still standing, unsure whether to clap or cry. Elvis stayed on one knee for a long moment, staring at Jamie like he was seeing a reflection of his own childhood. Then, without warning, Elvis stood up and turned toward the backstage crew. "Charlie," he called, his voice echoing across the arena. Charlie Hodge, his longtime friend and stagehand, rushed forward with a towel and water bottle, but Elvis didn't take the towel. He leaned close and whispered something no one else could hear. Charlie hesitated, blinked, then ran backstage. The audience watched in silence, whispering. "What's he doing?" someone asked. "Is the show over?" another muttered. A few seconds later, Charlie returned, holding something wrapped in dark velvet. Elvis took it carefully, his rings glinting under the white lights. He walked back toward the boy. The cameras zoomed in, and when he unwrapped the cloth, the crowd gasped. In his hands was one of Elvis's most personal treasures, a gold TCB necklace, taking care of business. He had worn it for years, given only to his closest friends and bandmates. Elvis held it out toward Jamie. "This belonged to a man who taught me to never forget where I came from," he said softly. "Now I want you to have it." Jamie shook his head. I can't take that," he stammered. But Elvis smiled. "Son, sometimes the world remembers you by what you give away." He placed the chain around the boy's neck himself. The moment the gold touched his skin, the crowd erupted. An ocean of applause, tears, and shouts of, "We love you, Elvis." But even through the noise, Elvis seemed distant. He looked at the ceiling, eyes glistening, lips trembling as if speaking a silent prayer. Maybe he knew this was one of his last chances to make something right. When he stood up, he whispered, "Charlie, tell the band to hold. I'm not done yet." He turned back to the mic. "This one's not on the set list," he said. "But some nights, the music chooses you." He motioned to the pianist. The first notes of "You'll Never Walk Alone" floated through the arena. People linked hands. Some closed their eyes. And as Elvis sang, his voice cracked, not from age, but from truth. No fan could have known it then. But that moment, the boy, the necklace, the song, would become one of the most replayed bootleg tapes in Elvis history. And when the tape leaked weeks later, it revealed something even more mysterious. 3 weeks after that unforgettable concert, Elvis was back at Graceland. The summer heat in Memphis hung thick and still. Reporters called daily, asking about the crying boy, but Elvis never said a word. To the public, it was just another performance. To him, it was something sacred. Then one morning, his sound engineer Joe Esposito came rushing into the studio holding a cassette. "Boss, you're going to want to hear this," he said. Elvis looked up, curious. "What is it?" Joe smiled. "A fan mailed this in. Says it's from Indianapolis. It's the full recording from the boys' night." Elvis froze. He took the tape in his hands, noticing the label written in childlike handwriting. "For Elvis, from Jamie." The reel clicked, hissed, and the room filled with faint crowd noise. Then came the moment, the silence, the words, the promise. When Elvis's own voice whispered, "Your daddy's proud of you," he lowered his head, covering his eyes. For a long time, he said nothing. Finally, he whispered, "Make sure this one never gets sold. Keep it safe." Joe nodded. "You got it, boss." But the tape had a secret. Near the end, after the encore, another voice could be heard, a small, shaky whisper beneath the applause. "Thank you for not forgetting me." Elvis listened twice. The second time, he smiled through tears. "That boy reminded me why I started singing," he said softly. "It wasn't for money. It was to feel connected." That night, he wrote something down in his notebook, a short line that nobody else would see until years later. "The stage is home, but the real show is in the hearts you touch. A week later, the bootleg somehow spread through fan circles. A few seconds of that tape, Elvis's trembling voice, the boy's whisper, turned into legend. People replayed it until the hiss of the tape became a lullaby. And when a local Memphis station aired it one night without permission, the phone lines flooded. Was that real? One caller asked, "Who was the boy?" Another demanded. The mystery only deepened. Even now, no one knows how that recording escaped Graceland. Some say a crew member copied it. Others believe Elvis himself sent it out to remind people of the kind of love that outlives fame. But what happened next proved that this wasn't the end of their story. Because a letter arrived at Graceland, sealed with a child's handwriting, and it changed everything. Late July 1977, Graceland gates shimmered under the Tennessee sun. The mail truck rolled in like any other morning, carrying boxes of fan letters, gifts, and postcards. But one envelope was different. It was smaller, blue-edged, with childish handwriting and a single word written on the back. Remember. Elvis's maid brought it to him during breakfast. He was sitting by the piano, humming an old gospel tune. He turned the envelope over twice before opening it. Inside was a short note. "Dear Mr. Elvis, you told me not to forget you. I never will. But if you ever sing again, please think of my dad. He's in heaven now, and I think he likes your songs up there. Love, Jamie." For a long time, Elvis didn't move. His hand shook as he folded the letter. The room went quiet. Even the air felt still. He finally said, "Get me the tour schedule." His manager, Colonel Parker, looked puzzled. "You already finished the tour, E. You need rest." But Elvis shook his head. "I need one more show." "Just one." The colonel sighed. "Where?" Elvis stared at the letter again. "Anywhere that boy can hear me." Within a week, he booked a private performance at St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis. No press, no photographers, just nurses, children, and quiet whispers of hope. When Elvis arrived, Jamie and his mother were there, invited secretly by Joe Esposito himself. The boy wore the same denim jacket, and that golden TCB necklace gleamed against his chest. Elvis knelt down, smiled and whispered, "You kept your promise." Jamie nodded. "You did too." Then Elvis walked to the small stage, picked up his acoustic guitar and said, "This one's for Jamie's dad, and for anyone who's ever lost someone they love." He played Amazing Grace. His voice cracked, tender and raw, carrying through the hospital halls like a prayer. Every nurse, every patient, every parent stood still. Halfway through, Elvis looked down at the boy again. Jamie mouthed the words along with him. When the final note faded, Elvis set his guitar down, tears wetting the collar of his jumpsuit. No cameras, no crowd, no spotlight, just the sound of a legend finding peace in a child's smile. That night, back at Graceland, he placed the letter inside his Bible. Beside it, he left a handwritten line. "He reminded me that songs are promises, and promises never die." Less than 3 weeks later, Elvis Presley would leave this world, but not before making sure that one promise would echo forever. August 16th, 1977, Memphis, Tennessee. The radio crackled across America. Elvis Presley has died at his Graceland home. For a moment, the whole world seemed to stop breathing. Outside the gates, thousands gathered, clutching flowers, candles, and photographs that trembled in their hands. Among them stood a small boy and his mother. Jamie was older now, but still carried that same denim jacket. Around his neck, the golden TCB necklace glowed softly against the candlelight. Reporters shouted questions. Fans wept and sang. Jamie said nothing. He just whispered, "You kept your promise, Mr. Elvis." A woman beside him, hearing the words, asked gently, "Were you the boy?" Jamie looked down, unsure what to say. Then he nodded once. That night, news crews filmed the sea of lights outside Graceland, 1,000 flames flickering under the Memphis sky. One frame captured Jamie holding the necklace, his face lit by the glow. The photo ran the next morning on the Memphis Press Scimitar front page. The boy Elvis never forgot. Inside Graceland, Joe Esposito found Elvis's Bible still open. The letter from Jamie was tucked inside, untouched. Next to it lay the note Elvis had written days before he died. Keep singing. Somebody out there still needs to hear you. Years passed. The concert tape from Indianapolis resurfaced in 1985 through a collector named Tom Hudson. He claimed it was copied from Joe's old reel, marked Do Not Sell. When the track reached radio, DJs across the South played it as The Forgotten Promise. Listeners called in by the hundreds. One said, "I was there that night. I still remember the hush." Another whispered, "I think he was singing to all of us." By 1992, a fan club in Tupelo raised money for a small bronze plaque outside Market Square Arena. It read, "In memory of a moment when music stopped," and a promise was made. Jamie attended the unveiling quietly. He placed a folded note beneath the plaque. A new promise for a new time. "I won't forget you either." As he stepped back, a gust of wind brushed through the crowd, scattering petals across the ground. For a heartbeat, it felt like the air itself was singing. The story could have ended there. But legends don't end, they echo. And every time a record spins and someone sings along, a small voice still whispers beneath the music, "Please don't forget me." Decades later, the story of the crying boy and Elvis still circulates quietly, passed between fans, whispered in documentaries, and written on message boards where people ask, was it real? Those who were there never doubt it. They remember the light, the silence, the way Elvis's voice broke when he spoke to that child. Some truths don't need proof. They live in the memory of the moment. At Graceland, visitors still leave small notes under a framed photo of Elvis with a child in the crowd. Some write, "You changed my father's life." Others write, "You didn't forget us either." In 2007, on the 30th anniversary of his passing, a grey-haired man was seen standing by that photo. He placed a tiny blue-edged envelope beneath the frame. The guards didn't stop him. They just nodded quietly, as if they already knew who he was. That man was Jamie. He didn't say a word, just traced the edge of the frame with his fingers and smiled. Around his neck still hung that worn-out gold TCB necklace, the metal faded but shining like memory. As he walked away, a young fan nearby asked, "Was that really the boy from the story?" An older woman whispered, "Yes, honey, some promises never fade. And maybe that's the real miracle. Not the fame, not the music, but the humanity. A legend who saw one crying child and decided that kindness mattered more than applause. In a world chasing noise and spotlight, that quiet act still echoes louder than any encore. Because sometimes, one small gesture can outlive an entire lifetime. And if Elvis could speak to us now, maybe he'd say what he told that little boy long ago. Your daddy's proud of you. Don't forget who you are. If this story touched you, share it with someone who still believes kindness can change the world. Because legends aren't just born on stages. They're remembered in the hearts they heal. Were you or someone you know ever moved by Elvis's music? Tell us your memory in the comments and keep the promise alive.